Hello, everybody. Hope you're doing well. This is the daily obstacles and opportunities video. Today I've got the Eight of Wands as the obstacle and the Four of Pentacles or coins as the opportunity. So let's check it out. There's something about this card in the Waite deck that I really like, as opposed to the Marseille card, which, I mean, I like them both, but I think that there's something particularly if we're going to be talking about obstacles that this card is very good at depicting. I don't know about you, but I see this as a bunch of sticks flying through the air. I kind of see them as descending, but they could also have been just launched, like they might be arrows or something, and we're seeing the back ends of them. But one way or another, I see this as representing ballistic movement. And it's kind of funny because uh, I just recently kind of looked that term up, ballistic. And it's one of the great things about the tarot and learning in general, growing throughout life, is that I've I've been a fan of this card for a long time, but it's taken on this whole new meaning now because there's something new that I learned in life. So go figure. But uh, but yeah, I now very much see this as ballistic movement, and the whole thing with ballistics is that once you push an object, once you infuse an object with energy, so throw something, launch something, it then exists in a ballistic state, and at that point, it's moving, and it's not gonna stop moving. It's gonna follow. I mean, usually the object will go in a straight line, unless it is influenced by some external forces. So when you throw a rock, it goes in a straight line, but then gravity affects it. Friction, let's say, even if we had no gravity theoretically, I guess after long enough, just the friction of the air in the environment would slow it down, maybe. But I think the point here is that once something enters into a ballistic uh, movement, I'm not sure of the exact jargon here, but a ballistic object no longer has any ability to act upon itself. There's something about human physical movement where let's say if you throw a punch, or something like you jump up in the air, you start running, at a certain point, you kind of start behaving like a ballistic object. And I think it's especially the case if you perform quick, snappy actions, like let's say throwing a punch or doing I don't know, a karate chop or something. When you commit to that action, when you propel your fist out, it starts moving, and it starts moving like a ballistic object. It becomes very difficult to stop it or redirect it mid motion. It has to complete its movement. And I kind of like I kind of liked this I like this idea as symbolizing some of the potential negative aspect of the wands, of actions and movements. And eights, eights generally represent the perfected state of that element. So this, in a way, this could be thought of as the the perfection the perfection of motion. And there's a lot of positive aspects to this kind of automatic, ballistic, thoughtless action, just pure movement. I mean, on an aesthetic level, any 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 art form that involves bodily movement, whether it's dance or theater or whatever, there's there are certainly individuals that are just masters of physical expression, and when that's happening in a flow state, you could kind of see it as being not consciously directed. It's just, there's feelings or emotions just purely pouring out through this medium of physical movement. Also, in martial arts, as an interesting stark contrast, example, in martial arts, if you're getting into a fight, which I hope you're not, unless you know want to with some sort of sparring partner, um, fights happen too quickly for people generally to consider what's coming at them and then to think about the best course of action and then to respond. So with most martial arts training, essentially what the idea is that you keep performing the same movements over and over and over under the same stimulus. So your sparring partner comes at you with some overhead attack and then you do a particular block and you just do it over and over, and train your you train your muscles, you train all your nerves to just automatically react to that one particular action in a certain way. And I remember finding this out for the first time. I was taking, I think, Taekwondo as a kid. And one of my instructors was telling me that when he goes to competitions and fights, it's like switching on autopilot. You don't get to think. It's you and someone else in the ring. And once you start fighting, it's kind of just like he said, it's like we get in there and then we find out who's got the better automatic set of instincts, because there's no time to think. So there's a lot of advantages to this. But as an obstacle, I think this card could indicate also that once you enter into this ballistic state, you've got no control over what you're doing. So I think this could be a situation where it's, again, because of the 8 and because there's still an implication of there being some sort of perfect movement, perfect action, perfect passion. I think what this is symbolizing is the idea that there might be things in your life that you're really good at, that you've been doing for a really long time. It could be a certain type of work. It could be, maybe you're really good at debating or arguing. It could, who knows, but any sort of skill, particularly in this case, anything that involves movement, that you've perfected, has this degree of, like, now is something that could just be, it just activates automatically without your explicit conscious desire to activate it. In the works of Daniel Kahneman, this is like system 1. Particularly if you're a master of some task, then you could just very quickly respond to situations with these instincts. And I think this card might be pointing out that there is a danger that in some situations, doing that automatic, letting yourself react automatically could get you into trouble or could create some sort of obstacle. So hopefully this isn't something too serious. And the most serious, I guess, example I could think of would be someone with extensive martial arts training that, you might get into a confrontation where some relatively, misguided individual is going to raise their hand at you, maybe even not even intending to do anything, but your instincts kick in and you knock this person out or something like that, because you're not controlling your instincts and they just activate, and then you're in that ballistic state where you can't stop yourself. I think in the more likely and maybe more relatable sense, it could be maybe responding to certain types of conversations or certain types of social stimulus in a certain way, where you just kind of have these behaviors that just seem to just occur automatically, and that in some situations, this is going to be inappropriate. Like Michael from The Office, when he can't stop saying, "That's what she said." It's like it's just this automatic thing that comes out of him. That's what she said, and uh, he's in that ballistic state. He can't stop. He can't change direction. But yeah, so that's something to consider for the obstacle, and then for the opportunity. Four of Pentacles. I think this card also with the Marseille, interesting, different graphical depiction. This one's the Waite, the Waite Smith illustration. I think often I've heard people, when I do readings, and I ask people what they see. This is often seen as like a greedy, a king that's hoarding his wealth or the wealth of the people, or something along the lines of certainly the way this individual is holding this pentacle seems like he's very concerned with holding on to it. Um, One of the things that I like about this card, or that one of the ways in which I think this card is representative of a good quality is, as a four, it's the first kind of balanced ideal state, and it's also the first state in the human dimension. It's the first, however you take to interpret that. Um, I see it as a state which reflects like a point in time at which you've gathered enough resources to start actually concerning yourself with your life outside of just making money to survive. Like this is the first state of balance outside of subsistence living. The three to me seems like a relationship between some sort of artisan or worker who is interacting with some sort of large social civil structure, doing some work for the church, putting your time in to reinforce the existing cultural norms. It's like a job or something that you do for other people. The four is the first time where you've got enough to stand on. You've got enough to support yourself. You've got something that you could work with. You can now start considering, in the negative interpretation would be like, this is where many people stop. And this is certainly a challenge that I think is very common with people who often save money. They tell themselves, I'm going to save up. I'm going to have a rainy day emergency fund. I'm going to save up $1,000. They save up $1,000. Then they're like, you know what? 5,000 would be a better amount. So they save up 5,000. Then they're like 10,000 would be a better amount. There's like this, they're constantly pursuing what they think is the optimal amount that they can then move on from. A lot of people have a hard time moving on from what they feel like is going to be, and that goalpost can keep shifting forward throughout life, where you never actually start living your life. You never acknowledge that, okay, now I've got enough of a safety net, now I could start venturing out and living life. It's like, no, I got to keep making the safety net stronger and bigger and better. One of the other aspects of the negative attribute of this, which hopefully you understand, I'm just using to illustrate why this could be a positive thing. One of the other things is when people have savings and an opportunity presents itself, I think it's a really good reason not just to have a rainy day fund, but to have a sunny day fund, like to have a fund specifically that sits there and waits for those times when some investment opportunity presents itself. And you could say to yourself, thank goodness I've got a couple $1,000 exactly for opportunities like this, But yeah, the issue there, I think, sometimes is you might have some savings set aside. It's not your emergency fund. It's money that you could theoretically use for whatever. An opportunity presents itself. Let's say someone is selling something at a greatly discounted price, and you're fairly confident that if you buy it, you'll be able to resell it within a relatively short amount of time for a significant profit. It's very undervalued. But often when people have a nice round amount in the bank, you got exactly $10,000. For a lot of people, this is really petrifying. They don't want to utilize it because then they are taking away its perfect round balanced number. It's that has its own it yeah, it exacts this pressure on you to just keep it there. 10,000, nice round number, $1,000, don't touch it. Um, but yeah, but so in that sense, I think this card could be signifying that either you are you are approaching or starting to experience that point at which you do have your bases covered. Maybe you just put the final installment in your rainy day emergency fund. And in that sense, you have finally completed, this stage. Now you can go on with, like in the Waite deck, the next card, the Queen of Pentacles. This is an individual whose world around them is flourishing through the properly managed and properly utilized resources. The Queen of Pentacles isn't someone that is hoarding those resources just for the sake of holding on to them. She is now in a stage where she's utilizing them. But I think that might be the more accurate interpretation. Hopefully, anyway, is this card could represent that you're at a point in time when you could recognize that that you do have enough saved up that you can switch into a different modality, a modality of getting into living life, maybe putting yourself out there in terms of how you manage your finances or your resources. A lot of people often put off starting a business. Let's say it's like, well, if I had the home office and the laptop, and I'm going to need a good scanner, and I'm going to need and they keep putting the date forward of when they're going to be ready to start this business. Often it's also a great excuse, subconsciously to shop and buy things without ever actually sitting down and starting to do the work that, you might be telling yourself you're going to do once you have enough stuff. One of my friends from years ago was really inspired by all the DJing and turntablism that my friends and I were doing, and he had a pretty good job, and he started investing in the ideal DJ setup, and he bought two Technics 1200s and a great battle mixer, for turntablism. And he got like the best speakers, and then it took him a while to find like the perfect table to put it on, and then he started sourcing records. But even when he had like 50 records, I don't know, that might not be a lot, but that's still, it's 50 hours of music. He wouldn't even start DJing with that yet. He was telling himself like, I got to get a nicer record collection. It's got to be more similar to what some of my DJ friends have. And it took him almost 2 years to get to a point where he had so many things. There was really no excuses. And then when he started DJing, and with the kind of, music genres that he was DJing, beat matching was a very important skill, and it was somewhat difficult. And then he found out that he just didn't really have a knack for it. Kept trying for a couple of months, then got discouraged, and then ended up just selling all of his gear. Like, it took him way too long to actually start utilizing all the tools he was amassing. Not to mention at that point, my friends and I, who had some money set aside for opportune situations, were able to, take advantage of the fact that now all of a sudden he's not interested in any of this gear and he's selling it. But yeah, I think that this card ideally could symbolize some sort of moment of enlightenment or recognition that that you've got enough. Maybe you have more than enough for what it takes to get started with the next phase. Security's there. You built up your savings. You've built up your safety enough. Even if you risk it, and if you lose some of it or all of it, you've gotten here already. You could do it again. Probably don't want to, just spend your whole life saving and saving and saving, and then never even being able to enjoy any of that money or enjoy any of that safety, aside from just, sitting around and doing nothing. So yeah, I think that maybe the ideal opportunity that this presents is the opportunity to recognize that you've got your bases covered, you got your foundation. You could start entertaining ideas of how you're going to, invest your time and your resources into the things that you're actually interested in. That is all for today. So yeah, be cautious of impulsive instincts that might put you in a ballistic state that could be very difficult to stop or redirect mid-action, and the opportunity to reconsider that maybe you've got enough of a safety. I guess this could also mean, recognize the necessity for that if you don't have it. But I've certainly in my life seen more personal, anecdotal as they are, examples of people not utilizing the things they already have. There's been a couple of people that it took me a lot of convincing, to convince them that they've been in a great position for a long time. They're squandering all their opportunities that they have. But yeah, I hope you found this valuable in some sense. If you did, bonk me the like button. As always, feel free to comment. Any comments will be entered for a weekly draw for a free one-on-one reading. Get them while supplies last. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.